Are we? I think we're live, Gigalones. All right, guys. We got a good one. We're continuing the series where we're doing beef a little bit. Pet peeves, beef. We got TJ Umbrell today. He's awesome. So I've talked to him before. You probably seen it. Wasn't that long ago. And we had a great conversation. He's a good guy. We get along really well, I think. I didn't ask him. I think so. But we're going to have a good show tonight. He's got some pet peeves to deal with. And the one we just talked, one spoiler, it may be controversial. So we'll see. We'll see. We got two people here already. So welcome, whoever it is. Maybe it's Luch. I don't know. What else? We officially reached out to Sprecher for a sponsorship. I had to send them links to the videos where we drink Sprecher. And I'm excited. So nothing has happened, but we'll see. It was today. So we're going to crack this bad boy. Oh, it's Wally. Welcome, Wally. Item 13 is here. So this is the orange cream soda. But fingers crossed, guys. If I could just get free root beer, that'd be super dope. I'd be super excited. Oh, there's 5 people here now. Welcome to everyone else. And without further ado, let me bring on my good friend, the Invertebrate dude.
Hey.
So we're bros now.
Yes.
So what we did before the show last week is I contacted TJ and I said, hey, man, would you be down to come on the show? And he said, yeah. I said, wait a minute. Hold that thought. I'm going to send you a blood sample from me and you send me a blood sample from you. And then we'll mix those on our pinkies. That's not your pinky. We'll mix those on our pinkies and then we'll be blood brothers. And so...
And inject some of the blood into each of us so that we have each other's blood.
Yeah, it was clotted, but I put it right in there. I was just like,
it's fine.
Yeah, I didn't have a syringe.
It's weirdly discolored. My whole arm is like turning black, but I think that's normal.
That'll fade. That'll fade.
Yeah.
As long as it's not internal. Oh, we got corals here today. So,
I'm seeing double for some reason, but I think it's fine. That's fine.
I'm just that good. I'm just that cool. You want to see me twice?
Yeah, there's 2 of you. Yeah.
So TJ, before we start into the pet beef, let's call it pet beef.
Pet beef.
Yes. I like that idea. I like the idea of like a beef, like a piece of beef that's like on a leash.
Yeah.
Yeah. With an enclosure.
You just dragging it around on the ground. Taking it on walks.
I need to do that short. That'd be great. That's caused by Josh's black blook. Blook? What's a blook?
Blook?
Wally says that's caused by Josh's black blook.
Your black blood?
Blood? I think it's supposed to be blood.
Blood, yeah.
I was like, is it book? Is it my black book?
Your black book?
Blood. There we go.
Okay.
It could have gone both ways because I was talking to TJ that I was an incel before this. Not one of the violent, scary ones, but like I was definitely involuntary celibate. Like,
oh my God.
Before I was married, like a good time before I was married. But yeah, so my black book would be toxic. It would just be like one number, like try not to call this girl more than 7 times a month because she's not into you. Yeah. That would be the note. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks for that tangent, Wally. That was good. What are your credentials? How long have you been doing this?
Gosh, I started seriously keeping and breeding bugs around, I want to say like 2014, 2015. Okay. Started keeping mostly random isopods I would find outside, the cosmopolitan species, as well as darkling beetles. Got into roaches, and from there it's just been, crazy. I kept probably or close to, I want to say like 400 species of invertebrates total.
Right now?
Over my time. Right now I have like 243, I think.
I have like 243.
Yeah. It fluctuates. But I'll be getting like a lot more over the next month. But so I've kept a lot of invertebrates, mostly roaches, darkling beetles, click beetles, and isopods. And then a lot of other oddball invertebrates as well.
To be fair, a lot of mainstream people that I try to talk into watching my show, like my normal friends, think it's all weird. So
Yeah.
It's relative. It's
Yeah.
relative. Like
Yeah.
anything, you could tell them I could click beetles and dark beetles, and I'd be like, I just heard beetles, and I'm
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah.
Uh,
So you know, there's it's relative, I
Yeah.
guess. So your first thing was kind of isopods, the wild caught yard
It was
bug.
one of the first things that I kept and bred, like the Armadillidium vulgare. I was one of the first people to breed Oniscus ocellus in the hobby. It was me and Kyle that were breeding them successfully around that age of like 13 to 2015. Because the iSpot hobby back then was like maybe like 15 species total, most of them ones that you can find in your backyard here in the US.
Yeah,
and
you had like Spanish orange. You had all that in Spanish orange.
Yeah.
And that was about
And
it.
for some reason, up until that point, a lot of people had kept Oniscus ocellus, but very few people had bred them. Like Oren McMonagle had posted, written in his books that he's kept Oniscus going for years, but they just don't produce offspring. And it was weird because me and Kyle bred them with absolutely no issues. And as soon as we started posting that we bred them, I remember like Oren posted on like the roach forum, like, "Oh, I suddenly just started getting babies from my Oniscus." It was weird. Yeah, it was like a curse had been broken or something. All of a sudden, everyone could breed them, and no one knew what the heck, why all of a sudden. But yeah, no, I mean, they're
Thanks to
pretty
TJ. That's awesome.
to me
That's
and Kyle.
awesome.
But
Oniscus.
yeah, right.
You know what? They're still not that popular, but there's some cool. There's some really cool morphs in the Oniscus.
Yeah, I was
family.
the original isolator of the Mardi Gras Dalmatian morph. Actually, that's my creation.
That's one of the prettiest ones.
Yeah,
that is such a pretty iSpot.
And it's crazy because I had my Oniscus colony going for like 5 years prior, and they were all just normals. But just multiple generations later, those Dalmatians started popping up.
See, inbreeding is such a good thing for the hobby,
right?
I mean, eventually it's bad, but like for now,
well, yeah. See, that's another one of my peeves, inbreeding. We'll get into that later.
Oh, dude, do you have a list, or is it just popping into your head?
I actually do have a list, but that is
I love the idea that you have a list. Oh,
yes.
I need to close my Facebook. Sorry, I keep getting Facebook alerts that.
Yeah.
I got this beef going with this guy, and it's all over Facebook right now. It's amazing how fast it went.
Yeah.
Anybody follows me or any of my groups, you know about it. It's awesome. I'm gonna destroy this dude.
Do it.
He's got to go.
I want to see footage of him crying and apologizing for his action.
I want him to send me his soul patch. I want him to send me his soul patch on like a piece of duct tape. And I'm going to eat it. When it comes, I'm just going to eat it and be like, I consume you. Catalant is real excited for this. Hi, Fishy. How you doing? What else did I want to ask you? Okay, so that's pretty good pedigree there that you bred Mardi Gras. That's your jam.
That's my main isopod accomplishment. You
got any funky roaches?
Lots. I have like 120 species of roaches right now.
So there are some funky ones in there. Okay. All right. Fair. Yeah. And how many of those have wildly different, like, husbandry issues?
A lot. Like, most isopods I've kept have pretty similar, like, base husbandry.
Yep.
And with a lot of darklings, a lot of the roaches are the thing that varies the most in terms of husbandry from species to species, in my experience. Like, you'll have species that literally you just set them up in dirt, a couple inches of dirt, keep them humid, throw dog food in there, they're fine. And then you have species that you need very specific types of hides, lots of them, really good ventilation. You need to feed them pollen and fruits and like really high sugary foods. Some species like it cold, some species like it really warm. Like, there's a lot of variation in terms of the husbandry of roaches.
That's wild. You have to remind some of those bougie ones, like, hey, you are still a roach. I just want you to know, like, this isn't going to be a buffet. No.
Yeah.
Like that conversation.
That's listen, if you don't breed well for me, I'm feeding you off, okay?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I tried to give my aunts a roach that had died in my care. It was a male dubia. And I didn't realize it had been sitting and, I guess, rotting I don't know how long. So
Yeah.
For my roaches, like the dubias are too tough to get that for them to get through it real easily. So what I do is I like cut the abdomen open a little bit, and I literally almost threw up. Like I was so close to throwing up with that smell.
Yeah.
And I had to get it out of my house, and I may have thrown it in my neighbor's yard.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But yeah, that you got to watch your feeders. You got to watch your feeders a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to get them. So, all right. So we got your credentials. You've been in it since 2015. So you're one of the pre-pandemic keepers.
Yes, definitely.
The pandemic saw a huge boom in isopod keepers and probably roach and pretty much everything else, right?
Mostly isopod, yeah. I guess probably tarantula keepers too, but yeah.
A lot of that stuff just blew up after the pandemic.
Like crazy. I call it the COVID cubaris craze. Is what really kicked the hobby off, the isopod hobby off.
I feel like I like that name
CCC.
a lot. We need to make merch.
Yes.
You need to make merch.
Like a little armadillidium riding like a COVID particle.
Oh, that bacteria? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's insensitive. I feel like that's probably insensitive, but
it probably is.
I'm down.
Let's be honest, yeah, that's
kind of how I roll. All right, let's get into these pet peeves.
All right,
what have you got for us? I don't know, guys. I only know about one of these, and I know that.
Yes, don't direct your hate towards Josh here.
I mean, you can.
For what I'm saying. Actually, deflect all of it towards him. Leave me out of it. I'm just voicing my opinions. He's enabling me.
Giving you a platform.
Yes, exactly. Okay, well, the first one, the one we were talking about is I see so much hate lately. So much hate for coconut fiber. And let me preface it with this. I would not use coconut fiber for anything that requires an edible substrate. That absolutely requires it. Wood feeding roaches like Penestine, isopods like Hilaria brevicornis, Haplophthalmus danicus, a few other smaller species that primarily live in rotten wood, and millipedes. I would not use coconut fiber for any of those. No point. Just filler. They don't need that in their substrate. Just go with an entirely nutritious one for those. But for anything else that doesn't require a nutritional substrate, coconut fiber, in my experience, has been a perfectly acceptable substrate for most of these species. So most roaches, most isopods, and orthopterans, a lot of beetles, darkling beetles, as long as you are not thinking that the substrate is their food, and so the only thing you're giving them is coconut fiber, right? Like I go into keeping roaches and a lot of isopods with the coconut fiber is there as a base layer to retain humidity, to provide an area for them to burrow into, but it's not their food. And if you look at a lot of these species in the wild, the substrate that they're on is not necessarily edible. Sand or clay-based soils, it's not edible. There's a top layer of leaf litter and stuff. And so for a lot of species, I do provide a top layer of leaf litter. For all my isopods, I give leaf litter, bark and stuff. But the main food is like the kibble and the fruits and vegetables and stuff that you give them. That they're primarily eating what's above their substrate, not the substrate itself. So most roaches, keep them on coconut fiber. They do fine. I have all my roaches on coconut fiber. Most of my isopods, I keep on coconut fiber. And again, I have, healthy, thriving colonies of all these species. Been breeding them for years. And most of the bigger breeders as well, not most of them, but not anymore. But a lot of the bigger breeders, Kyle from Roach Crossing, for example, Brandon Maines at Magnificent Beasts, a lot of the old timers, we all agree are in a consensus that coconut fiber, not necessarily the best substrate, but it can be perfectly acceptable so long as you're not going into it thinking, hey, this is their primary food source. And that's simply not the case. Most of these species, you know, and I have given some isopods and some roaches that don't need a nutritive substrate. I've given them organically rich substrates before, and then moved them to coconut fiber. And like the difference in breeding and health and vigor and all that was like not noticeable at all. Like it didn't make a difference to them.
Right. Right.
A lot of my isopods, like the non-burrowing species especially, you give them a organically rich substrate, and within a generation, they've covered their substrate in frass, and they keep breeding just fine. But they're not getting to those lower layers of edible substrate. And they're still breeding just fine. So it's like, why did I waste Why did I waste the bougie stuff on these isopods that aren't even getting to the lower layers of the substrate? Not even eating that stuff. They're breeding just fine on their shit. You know?
You gotta spoon the frass out and feed it to your plants and stir the substrate a little bit. So replenish, you know?
Yeah. And then, And then I see people like recommending, like, someone was asking, oh, what should I keep my powder blues on? And they're like, oh, they need a very highly nutritious substrate. Don't feed them leaf litter either, because that's not very edible to them. I don't get that either.
Who said that?
Well, I don't want to name
names.
I don't want to name names. But I'm seeing people saying that you shouldn't feed isopods leaf litter anymore, and that's just crazy to me because
you say that, you're stupid.
Yeah.
If you're watching this and you say that, you're stupid.
Yeah.
You should wear a sticker on your head for a week until you figure out how not to be stupid.
Yeah. Like
that's just dumb.
Some species, like powder blues, I have bred them without leaf litter. There are some isopods that can breed without leaf litter, but I have several that will refuse to breed without leaf litter, and I've noticed an increase in reproduction in most species when I do give them leaf litter. So my isopods always
have a corpse. We have a corpse here that says they breed powders on cardboard.
Yes. So that's what I was getting at. Like, you could keep powder blues. You could, I literally could. I would bet my life that I could get a colony of hundreds to thousands of powder blues breeding on a substrate of plaster of Paris and feeding them only dog food.
I need you to try aquarium gravel.
Yeah. That would work for powder blues. That, as long as you're keeping them humid, that would work.
Yeah, you just keep water in the bottom.
Yeah, they don't even need that much humidity. I find them out here in Idaho in the dry, high desert, in like the driest areas possible, just hiding under rocks.
They're one of the best, like, overall bioactives. I think everybody that I know is like, what do I keep with this species? And it's like powders.
Powder blues.
Just prunosis, dude. Just that's all you need to know.
They're not super protein hungry. They're acceptable. They accept a wide range of humidity. But yeah, like
breed anywhere.
Yeah. But then
we should do a study on gravel. Just putting them on gravel. Not to like recommend that, but just to see how hardy they are and how
not a great substrate for sure. But the point is, you're really recommending the most highest quality substrate possible for something, and making it sound like it's essential for something that you could probably literally breed on aquarium gravel. It's like
right. I think it's akin to like, let me just throw a little shade. Dart frog keepers way. Every dart frog keeper has their they're like the most I am going to come at you people I've ever met in my life. I stopped being in dart frog groups. Stopped wanting dart frogs. Yeah. They're insane. So they what do we got here? Frank the Tank, Red Queen Exotics is here. John Doe. I didn't know John Doe was a member. That's awesome. I assumed. Jay Christ has never come in. I don't know.
Christ, yeah. Where are you, man?
Where are you, man? You subscribe, Jay Christ. Let's do it. We need some salvation up in here.
Because I'm going to hell for this coconut fiber comment. So
you must repent.
So yeah, he's leaving.
What was I saying though?
Dart frog keepers.
Yeah, so they have their they have to be this and this and this, and you have to use this and this, and you don't. Like, is that awesome for them? Probably. Yeah, I don't know enough about dart frogs, but probably you've done your homework. Like, I would accept your advice. Is it the only way? No, just ask another dart frog keeper. Like, they'll tell you their way's the best. So,
and that's the thing is, a lot of people, especially a lot of the bigger breeders now in the isopod hobby and stuff, they're very much honing in on there's only one way to do things. This is the right way. There's no other right way. If you're doing this, if you're not doing this, you're doing it wrong. And my experience and a lot of my friends' experiences proves otherwise. One of my friends, Brandon Maines, he keeps a lot of his isopods. He keeps most of them on coconut fiber as well. And he has I think more isopods than I do, and a lot. They do really well for him. And quite a few of them, he barely offers leaf litter to as well, and they breed like crazy for him.
What is he offering for food? Like
just dog food and vegetables and stuff. But it's like, what works for you might not work for someone else, and what works for someone else might not work for you. And husbandry is very subjective insofar as that there are so many variables regarding husbandry that two people can be keeping the same thing wildly differently and both be having success, whereas two other people could be keeping something exactly the same as far as they can tell and having completely different results. So to say that this doesn't work 100%, it's hard to definitively prove that and say that, and it's certainly not the case. And again, like, I swear to God, some of these people make it sound like you keep isopods on coconut fiber and they're going to melt. They're going to wither away into nothing as soon as they touch it. And I have, a lot of species, several species of isopod that people consider difficult, that are breeding just fine.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm using as substrate is coconut fiber.
Now, you may not know this, but a couple months ago, I was on a website. I was on a Facebook page. I don't remember which one it is. I think it's Isopod Care and Rehoming.
Possibly.
I don't want to throw shade at a group that I'm not positive. I'll find out, and I'll put a link, or I'll talk about it on IsoBuddies. But this group is full of the dumbest people I've ever seen. All arguing about their ways the right way. And so I don't know what started it, but I got a real like hard on for getting angry about CocoCore. So I went in and I was like, hey, don't use it. Stop using it. If you find out a breeder that you like is using it, like, stop using them. Like, just stop. It's awful. Like, just I literally was like, if you'd use it and you sell isopods, like, stop selling isopods until you change. Like,
all right, I guess I'm gonna get rid of my.
So this is good. This is good that we're talking about this.
You're like, why do I have this guy on my live stream? Get him out of here.
No,
this is a mistake.
I think it illustrates that you can have success on different levels, and I can concede that. I still have my opinion, but I can concede that. I'm in the house of, like, if we can do best practices, like, let's do best practices. So, and I had CocoCore in my mix originally because it helps aerate and it holds the moisture and all that. I still have some somewhere. I still have some soil somewhere that has it in a bin that has my original mix. It was rehydrated smoker wood chips. It was, which may actually have some nutritional value now because it's been there.
Yeah, as it ages,
yeah. So I don't know that it's wet. It's probably really dry. Moon says his way is the only way. So now we need to get Moon on and talk about that.
Yeah.
I need to reach out to Moon. We need to get him on here. He's been following us since like day one. Always leaves a comment. Bravo. Sandy Skinks is here. But yeah, it was like topsoil, sphagnum moss, or peat moss. You know, the peat moss.
Yeah.
Then I found out the acidity in that is really high. It's not sustainable. Like all these things you find out later. But when I started, this was like some of the best substrate you could get. This was like one of the best. Wally,
that's a bougie mix.
Recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at the time it was Wally's recipe. I don't know if it's still the same. Your mileage may vary. I may be saying that wrong.
Sorry. Alarm.
Okay. Is it time to come on the show?
Yes. Sorry, I got another live stream I got to get to.
Yeah.
This has been great.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Stop selling iSpots. No.
I will do. I'll get right on that.
I'm sure. I'm not going to drag you. I just think that there's so many ways to do it. And if you're getting results and they're breeding and they seem happy, I don't see. That alarm is panic inducing. I was like, is it time to go on my show? So
Yeah.
I had an alarm go off, or I would have totally forgotten you guys. I'd have been down here at like 8:29. Like it's, oh my god, it's Tuesday. Because we had yesterday off. I work at a bank. We had yesterday off instead, so I'm all messed up.
Yeah.
But I think it speaks to the different methods that you can use to get similar results. And obviously, you're super well thought of in the hobby. Total respect. Obviously,
not anymore.
Not anymore. No, this is over. This is the end of your career, and
yes.
I have to be here for it.
Yes. The fall of Invertebrate, dude.
I was trying to end one career today, and I did the wrong one. I'm sorry.
You did both. Yeah, sorry. Oh,
got caught.
Okay. I ended it myself, so.
Maybe I could get that guy on the show.
Oh my god. Just a shouting match.
That would be awesome. It'd just be really nice for like an hour. Just be really nice for like an hour. They'd be like, do you know who I am?
Yes. Do you know?
Oh, Alan's here. Good.
Hi, Alan.
Beef Lonnie, just noticed that. Yeah.
Hey, Alan, how many things do you keep on cocoa fiber?
Oh yeah, Alan is super well thought of as well. So
well, actually, he keeps a lot of his stuff on potting soil. Actually, he's got that magic potting soil.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I've seen that too.
But I think
We'll find out.
He's kept some stuff on coconut fiber too, and he doesn't think it's.
Well, I mean,
the Antichrist.
Warren still swears by it. And he's the guy. Everybody watching this has one of his books, so we obviously respect what he's doing.
I've had my pictures in his books. I actually helped write a couple paragraphs in his latest Orthopteran book as well.
What?
So that was cool. Yeah, that was awesome.
There's some more. That's another way to show your chops.
Yeah.
Mostly arachnids. Yeah, I have some cocoa core in my tarantula.
Yeah. Anything that doesn't need a nutritive substrate, it's an acceptable substrate, and you can get good results with it. It just,
So maybe I should get off my soapbox and let people be a little bit.
Yeah.
And,
hey, it might not work. It might not work the best for some people, and that's fine. If you don't like it, don't use it. But different things work for different people, and I just hate to see needless, excessive bashing, and when it's not. And
my one
personally too. Oh my god, how many alarms do I have? I have so many.
Tonight.
Huh?
No. You are.
Let me turn off the rest of my alarms. Because this is when I usually get up to go to work. So.
Oh.
I work the night shift, so all my alarms.
Then you're awake. Then you're awake for this. We're not gonna nod off.
Yeah.
Oh, Justin's here too. All right. Okay. What's up, monkey?
They're all off.
So the thing that I've had with cocoa core, the biggest issue I've seen with people is almost everyone I know that's lost their collection has lost because they had like a heater malfunction or something, and the cocoa core dried out so fast. So if it's mostly cocoa core, there's it'll retain moisture to an extent, but then it's done. That's dangerous. But if you're on top of it, if you're on top of your stuff and you're keeping track of it, obviously that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But
and and it depends on your schedule too. If you're wanting to go, so learn some of the coconut fiber you get in garden contains some salt content. Though, okay, I've never used like the stuff that they sell for plants. I always get the stuff that's advertised for reptiles, like Eco Earth, or there's some random reptile brand that I've been getting it off of Amazon lately. So that stuff, that's what I use. But yeah, if you're wanting to go like a month or more without doing maintenance on your isopod, which some people who keep a lot of isopods do, then you're probably going to want to use a nutritive substrate, a deep nutritive substrate that will retain more moisture and provide food for them, because you're not feeding them, weekly. I feed mine supplemental food weekly, and I always keep them.
That's a totally different, it's a totally different thing.
And in that case, you're not going to want to use it.
That's like what I do.
Yeah. So it depends on your usage, depends on your husbandry schedule, your methodologies. Different substrates will work better for different people, and so it just really depends. But you can use it, and as long as you're doing stuff right, you can get great results and just as good results. Usually, not much of a difference between using nutritive versus non-nutritive substrate if your husbandry is corrected accordingly. So.
And you can get detritus in the cocoa core as well. Like it could be present in the cocoa core as you're going. It could form or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. I think
so. Yeah.
You're softening.
works
My
works for,
mentality.
yeah. Different things work for different people, and that's really just what I like to convey. So yeah, that's
All right,
just
I like that. I like
something.
that. And I could have softer emotions about things. I only have big emotions. So,
Yeah,
so all
it's
right,
fine.
who's next?
Mhm.
Who's next? What's your next
Who's
beef?
next? My next beef. Uh, let's see. Inbreeding. We were talking about inbreeding. We
Yeah,
can
we
dive
were.
into that more. So
Now, in
inbreed.
context, we were talking about inbreeding to like
hmm
maybe
We were
jumpstart some
talking about
things with
his
these
family
kids.
tree. Uh,
Oh, rough. Now I got extra beef. Um,
no.
I can't say there's any inbreeding, but if you take every kind of like white person on the planet and you have them distilled into one family, like
Yeah.
that's my family. Like
Yeah.
we did a genealogy thing, and it's like we
Yeah.
just check boxes, like, oh yeah, that's
That's
right,
me.
that's
Yeah.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
we're every kind of white person. Like, there's no real. I could have
I
so many
got
traditions and
yeah. Something like
holidays, and
that.
yeah,
What is it? I'm like basically 50% Irish, quarter Italian, and quarter Chinese.
that's a weird. That's a culinary mix. Like
Right? Yeah.
coming to your house for dinner. That's
Yeah. No, it's boring white people food though. Vegan white people food too. So you're not gonna.
my friend. I'm gonna make this joke here.
Mhm.
It might be off color. I don't know. I
Okay.
liked it.
Oh, God.
We got to
I
consider
don't.
the
I'm
source.
not. I'm not part of this. Don't cancel me for this.
I think if you listen to the joke, you'll like it. But my friend was like, I don't know how you white people enslaved all these people with
hmm
over spices, and you cook the most bland food on the planet. And I was
It's
like,
true.
that's fair.
It's true.
That's
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did that happen? That's weird.
I don't know. And my wife is Dutch, so like
hmm
that's exactly what
Oh
they did.
God.
They don't want to
Yeah.
hear about it. But Dutch people were real mean about pepper plants.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty. That's pretty. That's not that bad a joke.
No.
That's
No.
decent. That's decent. That's just
It's
not.
okay to make fun of white people. That's fine.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine. I'm
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Is Nanette here? Nanette's here too. Oh
Nanette.
my
Oh, I can see
gosh.
the comments now. I was.
Oh, good. And Chris Amos.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Hey,
last name's wrong.
Alan saying he's keeping his Persona expansis on coconut fiber mixed with sand for years and hasn't changed his
With
substrate since
sand. I didn't see the
2019.
sand part. I thought he
I
said
have
soil.
sand mixed into some of my ice spot substrates as well. Is when I run out of coconut fiber and I need to increase the depth a bit.
When it increased the inedibleness of
yes,
my
right?
substrate.
Yes. It just goes to show, as long as they have stuff on top of the substrate they can eat, that's all they need.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean,
But,
I'm not going to roll you for it, but
yeah.
agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. That's fine. As long as we can agree to disagree.
It's two of the guys getting great results at least. So, I mean, three guys if you count Oren in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I could argue, but there's really no point. I don't have the data or the whatever to back it up, you know. I got pandas to breed. Woohoo! So did everyone else.
Oh God, pandas are so easy. I tried to get rid of my pandas like last year, but
Yeah.
I had two. I had two that I failed to sell that were still in their old substrate, and I just kept them. And it ended up being a male and a female. So now I have dozens, probably like 100 of them again in the little jar.
Off of two? Guys, we don't recommend 2 counts here. Nothing lower than 10.
All right, yeah. That was an astronomically lucky pairing, but yeah.
Rod was generically tested, so that Rod's
generically,
school.
Yeah. Come back to us when you're genetically tested. Then I'll believe you, you reptilians.
that's a great typo. Generically tested. You just walk in the room and they're like, "Yep, you're a human." That's definitely.
Oh my God.
Rod, I said your name right today, so I get a point.
Okay, yeah, that's why you freeze remaining substrate. I agree, Frank. Yes.
Freeze remaining. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Inbreeding. Right, so inbreeding.
Yes. So multi-generational sibling to sibling inbreeding. Yes, that's bad. It's proven in a lot of mantids and stuff where like people only hold back a certain amount of offspring per generation because they would go crazy trying to keep, all like 200 offspring they get a generation alive. And I think a lot of times they end up keeping a lot of siblings, from like their first couple ooths, and then they breed those together. And if you do that for multiple generations, you are going to have issues with genetic fitness, a lot of deformities and stuff. So when people say, oh, the mantids are inbreeding, or tarantulas or stuff like that, that's predatory, that people only keep a few of from each generation, that is probably inbreeding when you start having problems like that. For anything that you keep in a colony, though, inbreeding really is not an issue, because sibling to sibling inbreeding is the worst. That's where most of the genetic defects come from. And you will have sibling to sibling inbreeding probably for your first, maybe second generations of colony stuff that you keep. But then you start getting cousin to cousin, second cousin to second cousin, because they produce so much, and you get all the staggering generations and stuff. So, like, inbreeding is almost never going to be an issue in most isopod, roach, even some darkling beetle species. And this has been proven by the fact that most roaches, some isopods, and some beetles as well, were literally collected from single gravid females, single pairs in the wild. And a lot of those stocks have been thriving, being used as feeders, etc., for decades without any additional bloodlines, added from the wild. Pistella horrida, too, that's another one, the horrid assassin bugs that were started from a single gravid female. So, first of all, obviously inbreeding is not an issue for those, even though they've not had any wild lines brought in to increase the genetic diversity. They're breeding just fine. And a big part of that is because invertebrates have a lot of built-in mechanisms to combat inbreeding, namely, most of the genetic defects that would be considered detrimental to insects as a result of inbreeding are fatal genes. So usually, ones that are fucked up from being inbred die long before they're able to pass those genes on. So they kind of cull themselves. And again, I'm not super familiar with all the genetic terms and stuff, but I read something that was talking about, basically it's hard for insects to pass on fatal genes, detrimental genes, because most of them will die before they can do so. And then you end up having the fittest ones breeding for you every generation, and it's not an issue.
You're making super roaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually.
And additionally, when people are like saying, oh, I'm adding new blood to my dubia roach colony, which dubias were really only imported once, as far as I'm aware, maybe once or twice, both from Argentina decades ago. So all dubia in the hobby are from the same starter group. There's not a ton of genetic diversity in what's in culture. And so when people have like a failing dubia colony, and they're like, oh, I got to add new blood to my dubia colony. You're not adding new blood. You're just bringing in some cousins to breed with them. Like they're not that distantly related. So you're not actually introducing that much new genetics. So when people,
that's how you get Kentucky. That's how Kentucky.
Right. So that's a non-starter to begin with for most things like roaches and stuff. And additionally, when you have inbreeding, is usually the first thing people point their finger at when cultures crash for a reason that they can't immediately identify.
I've heard this a lot. I've actually heard this a lot recently.
And usually,
another debate.
Yeah, and usually it's just husbandry. But the thing is, husbandry, the slightest thing that you can't even perceive might be causing your colony to crash. Your ventilation is just a little off. Your ambient air humidity in the enclosure is just a little off, and they're just not doing well for you. You fed them something that they don't like, that they got a bacterial infection or pesticide poisoning from. There's a lot of little things like that can happen. So many variables that to immediately assume that inbreeding is the issue, that your colony isn't breeding for some reason, it's just kind of weird. especially if it's a species that a lot of other people are doing fine with.
Yeah.
You know, if everyone was having a problem with the species, no matter what conditions they kept them in, then yeah, maybe inbreeding is the problem. That whole stock is, messed up. But if you're having issues breeding them, but the person you got them from has a huge thriving colony, why would yours be more inbred? Why would yours be suffering those effects? It's just a weird thing to immediately jump to.
I think it's an excuse. I think it's people that are looking for a reason that isn't them, because they don't want to. They either don't want to admit it or they don't want to deal with the fact that it's something they did.
Exactly. Exactly.
I feel like a lot of keepers. I don't know if you watched the episode we just did with Smugbug, and before that with Heather, where we talked about like neurodivergence. I think a lot of people form these like really intense attachments to their organisms and hit like super depression if something happens, like if the colony crashes, they like kind of lose it. And I think that's comforting to think it's not them. And then there's other people that just can't admit that they did anything wrong, and just like they've been fine forever. It has to be inbreeding. Maybe you're changed.
Yeah, exactly. And then
global warming for everything in my house. So
and then, as Alan points out, blaming husbandry failure on inbreeding hurts the hobby too, since people won't try to figure out what the underlying problem was. Which, exactly. And the thing is too, like a lot of people will, let's say you have a dying colony of a random isopod or a roach, right? And your culture is like half dead. You don't have that many left, so you get more new blood, right, to increase the vigor of your colony. But at the same time, you're buying or trading for new stock. If you're doing that, you're probably also redoing your research and asking around like, oh, how should these be kept? Looking up different husbandry techniques. And it's likely that in conjunction with getting new stock, you're probably also tweaking your care a little bit. Maybe you added a little bit of extra ventilation. Maybe you fixed the humidity gradient or whatever. And then you do that, you get the new stock, and all of a sudden they're breeding better for you, and you're like, oh, it was the inbreeding, I added new blood. That's what did it, because that's a more significant change in your mind, the acquisition of new individuals, that's more, that's a much more powerful image in your head than, oh, I changed the ventilation, I added a few extra ventilation holes, I gave them a different humidity gradient, I gave them better highs or whatever. That seems a little bit more inconsequential, when in fact that is probably what did it. And the fact that you now have healthy individuals in your colony instead of the dying ones that you had. So
right, and you probably changed the whole colony, like probably changed the whole bin because the other one died.
So that's not an issue with inbreeding. That's not increasing the genetic diversity or whatever. Didn't save your colony. It was just the fact that you now have individuals that aren't on death's door in your colony, and you probably fixed your husbandry as well. And also sometimes people will do that, and they won't change their husbandry. And so for the first generation or two, they started, with their new healthy individuals, the new blood, their colony will do well. And then a couple generations later, it starts failing again because they didn't change their husbandry, and the new stuff that they got is feeling the effects of that finally. And then they're like, oh, well, the inbreeding, I increased genetic diversity for a bit, but they started inbreeding again, so I have to keep adding new blood, That's another vicious cycle that people get into, and it's like, no, it's not the inbreeding. You keep adding more to your colony. Something's wrong with your husbandry. Fix that, and you won't have to add anymore. Exactly. You're probably spending more time and feeding better when you add new animals. Exactly. Your attention is renewed on that colony, and they start doing better.
Yeah.
Some isopod people having, yes, exactly. And that's another horrible thing about adding new blood to your colonies, is that you can end up mixing localities, which, you lose some of the special traits each locality has when you mix them. Or in the case of some isopods, most isopods can't hybridize, but a lot of roaches can. And that's how we've ended up with so many hybrid roach lines. Most hissers can breed with each other. All blabberous species, well, not all, but most blabberous species that are within the same species groups as each other, they can hybridize. Varia, so like the question mark dominoes roaches, orange dominoes, those can interbreed. And I think Gyna as well. So we're seeing more and more hybrids popping up in the hobby, even of like I've seen so many people try to buy question mark roaches recently that have been receiving hybrids, and so they don't even have the question mark markings anymore. It's just a very squiggly like domino line because they got mixed with domino roaches. And I'm seeing it's such a horrible situation in the roach hobby where there's so many hybrids now, and it's like, dude. And a lot of it is because people add new bloodlines to their colonies if they're not doing well. They want to increase genetic diversity when most of these were single source stock lines, anyways. You know.
Yeah.
So you're not only are you not increasing genetic diversity, you're not fixing your husbandry, but you can also be hybridizing your colonies and then selling those as pure stock, and people buy what they think is pure stock from you, and it ends up being hybrids. And it's a big problem, especially in roaches right now. Like, so many people are creating hybrid colonies, and
that's one of the biggest things that gets the frog people pissed is the hybridization.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's so much the hybridization as people selling their hybrid frogs.
That's the problem. I would have no problems with hybrid roaches if people were labeling them as hybrids. You know, I think there's some cool possibilities. In fact, with hybridizing different hissers, you can get some really interesting looking things popping up. But the problem is with people being idiots that they label hybrids as pure species, and that's where the big problem is, because a lot of species, like the common hisser, for example, the common hissing cockroach, Grumpfordina portentosa, 90% of what you see sold as Grumpfordina portentosa are hybrids at this point on the market. The portentosa genes are so strong that usually whatever they're mixed with usually reverts to more portentosa-like coloration and morphology, but they still look pretty different compared to pure portentosa. And so it's hard to find pure portentosa. It's hard to find pure lines of a lot of hisser species because of how prevalent hybrids are at this point and how bad the labeling is in the hobby. So it can be a big problem, and eventually we may end up losing some of these hisser species. We might end up losing some of this stock, and we're losing diversity in the hobby as a result of inbreeding and then improper labeling. Hybridization and improper labeling.
You just answered my question. I was going to be like, ready for another pet peeve?
Yeah.
Who cares? But that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah. But yeah. So
no, I get it. I get it.
Inbreeding is not the problem. A lot of newbies freak out and make it out to be. And if you're adding new blood to your colony, just really make sure that you're getting them from a good source. Make sure you're not crossing localities, not crossing species, and just be careful, because this is how we end up getting hybrids in the hobby. This ends up how we end up losing species because of hybrids being labeled as pure species. It's a slippery slope. So
Frank had a point that new people to the hobby kind of want to do something cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they think that might be a good way to get a morph, but you're not really getting a morph. You're getting some hybrid rando.
Exactly. And when you mix when you mix like a lot of different lines of morphs together, for example, in isopods, and you see something cool that you like, and you try to isolate that, it's very difficult to, especially when there's so many different genetics at play, so many different morphs that they're het for. Isolating that specific coloration that you want can be actually very difficult when you do that. You might get some really weird looking individuals popping up, but isolating for that is going to be way more difficult than isolating a simple recessive genes.
That's wild.
So that's an issue as well. So it's not even that beneficial to do that.
Do you think, like, back to isopods? So, like, I see all these like gem mixes and whatever mixes. That's basically a hybrid pod waiting to happen, right?
Yeah. A lot of those, like the A. vulgare, a lot of those, it's mostly people just mixing the same species together. That's fine. In terms of hybridization, it's that's fine, whatever. It's just
different
mixing
morphs.
different locales. So, and as long as you're not as long as you're not like selling like your orange, like let's say you mix Orange Vigor and Magic Potion and Punta Cana and normals together in one colony, and you sell orange vigors on your website or whatever, and what you're doing is you're pulling the orange ones from that colony. Those aren't orange vigors anymore. Those have genetics for all the other stuff you mixed in with them. You know,
I mixed initially. I
them.
mixed my Puntacanas with
Yeah.
like T albino.
Yeah.
And I don't know that anything ever happened with that. I had basically a full colony of both.
Yeah.
But when I sold them or gave them away or whatever, I had to, I was like, hey, this is what this is. This was my project.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nothing ever happened with it, but I mean, I basically had a bin of Punta Cana and a bin of but together.
Yeah. And so like from that, don't sell pure Punta Canas from that colony or T albinos. You have to say, oh, this is a mix of them, and that's fine. That's fine. But some people don't do that, and that's where the problem is with gem mixes.
And then I worry that people would buy those from someone and then separate them or whatever, and not have the
proper
moral fiber to be, to carry that on. Now they have 2 colonies.
Exactly.
Not cool.
Yeah. So that's an issue with that.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's 2. That's 2 down.
That's 2 down. 2 beefs down. What else?
What do we got?
What else? I don't know. Those are too many.
You're out at 2?
They're 2 long ones. Okay. Well, inbreeding. I
covered
technically 3 because I covered hybridization, inbreeding, and substrate. What else?
And substrate.
Names. I hate isopod hobby names. Just
let's get into this because this is another one that's near and dear to my heart. So
near and dear to my
if you know me,
so like, don't create a morph of a species. So like panda kings, Cubara species panda king. That's a strain name now. Okay. That's how we identify that's that species because we don't have a species identification form. So Cubara species panda king. That's what they're called. If you make a morph of them, you have to include the panda king name in the morph. There's a lot of morphs of that species now that people are not labeling that. They're Cubara species tapir. That's a panda king morph.
Oh, the tapir one is the one. I was going to say, aren't they all labeled some kind of king or some kind of panda?
No, I think citrus.
Not.
Citrus. It's not citrus panda king. It's just Cubara species citrus.
Oh,
is how a lot of people. That's how some people are labeling them. And no, that's a morph.
I did not know that was even a panda king.
It's actually, I think it was isolated from the red panda line. I think. Nice. I could be wrong on that. But it's an all red one. Yeah. Red panda, that's kind of cool. But it should be red panda king, maybe. Or panda king dash red panda or whatever. You have to reference the species that it was isolated from. At the very least.
Like you would do like Anesculus maple or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And people aren't doing that. And so we're getting all these convoluted things. And so people think that they're getting different species. And you're just getting different morphs of the same species, which is still cool. But we need to retain that information that's what that species is.
Well, you just said yellow zebra.
Hobby names are just getting so... Yellow zebra. I'm going to make a immaculate yellow zebra, but with white stripes.
By the way, while we're talking about common names, so yellow zebra. I don't know if Wally did that on purpose. Wally, Jesus said it was time. Who's Wesley? Wesley Curry? Satan said sad and delicious. I don't know who this is. Interesting. God's voice and Satan's voice. About 2 comments from getting booted. All right, can we kick him? Somebody's in here that's a bot, right? Can we kick that dude?
Listen, this is the religion that we need in this heretical live stream, though.
It is heretical. Yes, we're talking about inbreeding and Jay Christ. Jay Christ being a member. So yeah, I hate. A person is here too. Yeah, I don't know why there's a preacher in the chat.
Get him out of here.
Yellow zebra is like one of the worst names. I think it's so dumb because a yellow zebra is like not a thing.
Yeah.
I get it. You bred it. It's yours to choose, but just call me. Reach out. I'll find a name for you to name your isopod. I promise I'll help. It'll be marketable. It'll be relatable. Red
Mm-hmm.
panda wasn't red panda; it was orange panda.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if this is the same as your inbreeding argument, but I
Mm-hmm.
threw a fit about it
Mm-hmm.
in a very big way, and all of a sudden it was red panda.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying causation.
Causation is correlate.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, but yellow zebra should be bumblebee, and the bumblebee cubaris that they have,
mm-hmm.
it should not be called a bumblebee at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It does
Yeah.
not look like a bumblebee.
Yeah.
Maybe yellow jacket.
Yeah.
It's kind of muddy.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like a bumblebee, but yellow zebra definitely does.
Yeah.
Those champagne maculatus are so awesome, so gorgeous.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Um,
That line, that I think that champagne, is that the same as the like the paradox line where they get like the half just like completely white and then the other half is black?
like
Or I
that
think of a
beige.
different line.
No, they're like beige and
Oh, okay,
like
okay.
white. It's like a cream, but it
Oh,
goes to the edges
yeah,
of
yeah,
the.
yeah.
They're not scoots. What are they on an ice pod? What is the little individual plates? Are they just plates? Or are they? I know
Might
when a
just be
turtle is like a
plates.
scoot.
Might just be plate or
I'm
scoop.
gonna call them
I don't
plates.
know.
Let's call them plates.
Call them
Let's
plates.
decide.
Different segments, yeah.
We just decided for the community. So yeah, it's really cool. It goes from like a really light beige to the white,
Okay.
and you have to really look at it to get it. But yeah, common names.
Yeah.
Yours is more detailed. Your reasoning for crappy common names is makes way more sense than mine.
Yeah. And yeah. And like for like the zebras, I would personally prefer Armadillidium maculatum dash like yellow. I mean, I guess the common names, whatever. But the strain name should be yellow, not yellow zebra.
Okay.
And there's a lot of labeling in the isopod hobby that's just very like convoluted and weird. And it sucks too that a lot of like the unidentified species that we end up getting, like all the Marylinella and the Cubaris, the people that are collecting them and distributing them aren't disclosing like the locality information. So instead, it really should be like Cubaris species Miyako, the Japanese red edges. Those have the locality in them. Cubaris species Miyako. That's great. That's what we should be doing instead of Cubaris species Ember bee. Emperor bee, because they look like a bee. Put the locality in there because that makes it easier to identify them, and then you can use those fanciful names for the morphs that you create, right? Instead of making it really convoluted and and then Alan was pointing out people are for some reason labeling Cubaris marina, which is the only Cubaris we have in the hobby that's identified to species. They're labeling them Cubaris species marina.
Wait.
Like
you can't label them.
Like as if the marina is like the strain name. But no, that's a species name. You don't have to put it's Cubaris marina, not Cubaris species marina. That makes no sense.
I got it. What
are people doing?
Yep.
Yeah, Cubaris ST. Yeah, no.
Okay.
No, yeah.
I say it marina. I had to. Okay, I got it. It. Marina.
Yeah, Cubaris species marina, and it's like, what are you doing? That's the only. And what about all the Eriomotensis nonsense? A person coming in. Yeah, that's what I guess some people have been labeling the species Miyako, the red edge Japanese line of Cubaris as Cubaris Eriomotensis, which Eriomotensis is actually a synonym for Cubaris marina. It's not even a valid species. And the species that we're labeling as Eriomotensis are not marina, so that whole name should be done away with. Just Cubaris species Miyako or Armadillidae species Miyako is what they should be called, because they're probably not even Cubaris. So yeah, just there's a lot of convolution, there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of confusion in isopod labeling, and it sucks. And it makes it really hard to tell what you're getting. A lot of multiple names used for the same species in the hobby as well, and then you end up getting two things that you think are different, and they're the same. So, I would like to see a more uniform labeling. And I know Kyle from Roach Crossing is really working hard to. He's about to update his website. It's going to be this huge update, and he's adding like 200 some species of isopod to his site. And he had me and Nathan Jones and Tennyson Kingley all in a chat with each other talking about how we should go about labeling isopod species in the future. And I forget exactly what format he went with, but when he does make the site go live and does that, redoes the labeling on a lot of the isopods that he has, I'm probably going to start following that, whatever format he's using for that, because yeah, I think we should all adapt to a uniform way of labeling isopods instead of just willy-nilly, yeah, so
we should everybody should jump on board with some uniform system where, and if it's an educated thing, like this sounds like it's like a really smart roundtable that you guys had going there. But immediately I was like, I gotta get these guys on the show and go over that, like do a recap of that here. But then I was like, 7 people would watch it and be like, this is awesome, and the rest of the people would be like,
no, I want to label my orange Dalmatians that I isolated myself as fantastical sparkle orange cream, not Shasta orange Dalmatian dash locality. It just it's dumb.
Shasta delicious scaber. I want to know who irradiated the scaber line, because there are 5,000 morphs of scabers, and I remember trying to collect them in the beginning, and then all of a sudden there was like 60, and I forget it.
Kyle from Roach Crossing has been like really gung-ho on isolating as many different scaber morphs as he can. Wow. He's got so many scaber lines, like it's ridiculous.
Are they just that like morphy?
They're very morphy, and the coloration differs like from locality to locality as well. So there's different traits you can isolate. Like a lot of scaber locales are just the plain like gray, but then I found some here in Idaho that are like they're gray, but they have like little margins, paler margins on the side as well. And that can be isolated for and intensified. And then if you cross that to like an orange morph, you will have orange ones with those lighter margins as well. So like there's a lot of potential there. A lot of little minute things that you can potentially isolate for and intensify through extensive line breeding. There are some lines of scaber that Kyle's been working on for like a decade almost, just continuously refining. He'll isolate for a specific thing that he wants, and then take the best pair out of the colony of hundreds that he has, isolate those 2, and start a colony from those 2. And then, just only starting another colony from only 2 and isolating from those babies, and then doing the same thing for multiple generations. So much inbreeding, but selecting for the very specific lines, and so much inbreeding, and they still breed like scaber. So,
so inbreeding does cause mutations. So, all right.
Or at least you can select for what mutations you want.
There you go. There you go. See, I had to say it like a dum-dum so that you could clarify for actual dum-dums.
And select for the features you want with extensive.
A person said they sent you something and want to see if you notice. I don't know.
What?
Some kind of message somewhere?
Just sent
Orgy Biv.
Okay. You say Roach Crossing, a person sent what? Someone tried to sell Porcelia scaber rubber ducky once? Oh my god. Wait, what?
TJ just had a stroke live on the air. Like, what?
And Roy G. Biv. That's the Porcelia scaber line that Kyle's been working on for like a decade, I think.
Where did he come up with Roy G. Biv? Are they like rainbow colored? Are they?
They are like rainbow colored. I think it's the name of a We Are Giants song or something. Giants, some band.
Oh, maybe.
Band song name he picked for. I don't know.
It's the anagram for the rainbow, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue.
I guess I don't really get. I didn't know what that name means. Maybe that is probably what it means.
Could be. I'm sure somebody made a song out of it or something.
Yeah. A person sent me something on Discord. Gotta check my phone.
That's a lot.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I gotta check those out.
Someone trying to sell 6 plus 10 plus rubber ducky isopods, Cubara species rubber ducky, as Porcellio rubber ducky.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
his
see,
name.
that's why there's so much. The problem with isopods is they're too easy to breed. It's too easy to make a morph, or
We
at
got
least
too
like a
many
temporary morph.
randoms coming in from COVID.
Dude, so
That
many
are-
randoms from COVID. You guys must have hated it. Like,
yes.
yes, you're selling isopods, but also, yes, there's a lot of dummies that don't know what they're doing. Like, I'm still
Well,
a dummy that doesn't know what he's doing, but I'm not selling. So,
yeah, and that's what happens when, first of all, you have a hobby that people perceive as being very lucrative, and so people are like diving into the isopod hobby to make some quick bucks, right? And it's like,
yeah,
first of all, it's not that lucrative, especially with how
no,
saturated the market is. If you're in it for just the money too, that's the wrong reason to be in the hobby, especially one
yep.
like this. And there's so many people, like the roach hobby, for example, doesn't really have as much of a problem with this stuff as the icepod hobby does. I think part of that is because most of the people that are in the roach hobby are really in it for the love of the roaches. They have an innate fondness for um, invertebrates, and they do a lot of their research, right? They spend a lot
I
of
think
time
you'd have to.
reading up on this stuff. Whereas all these people joining the isopod hobby, especially during COVID, they're like, "Oh, these are cute. These are cute little roly polies, you know, and they're colorful and they're cute, you know." And they're not actually doing much like research into the science of it all. They're just keeping them because they're cute and for the meme, right?
I don't know how I started roly poly. I don't know
Yeah,
how the bug got me,
yeah,
but I remember. I don't remember the chain of events, but I remember getting some from my yard,
mm-hmm.
like some Armadillidium vulgare.
Yeah,
I think I got like 60. I went crazy on the first thing. Put them
yeah,
in like a 10-gallon,
mm-hmm.
and in a cool setup, and I watched them. They were on my desk. I
Yeah,
watched them all the time. Um, and somewhere in there, I found a website that had people had them, and then I
mm-hmm.
went from there to find out tons of people sold these
Yeah,
crazy
yeah,
I suppose I'd never seen. And this was like 4 years ago.
mm-hmm.
So there weren't even that many out at that point. Like
Yeah,
it wasn't like crazy morphs everywhere.
not a ton, yeah,
Um, then I found the community,
mm-hmm.
and it has been a love story
Been
ever
crazy
since.
for it,
But
yeah,
like, I don't remember the chain of events. Like, did I
mm-hmm.
see them online first and then went
Mm-hmm.
out to see if I could
Find
raise a
them, or
Ferrari?
you find them
Yeah,
first, and then yeah, and to be clear, joining the hobby for that reason that I was saying, like for, you know, just, oh, they're cute little, you know, that's fine, and that's a good way to
yeah,
get into this stuff. But the problem is when you get all those people that are less knowledgeable about, you know, invertebrates and the science of it all in general, and they start getting propped up on these pillars. You know, they end up, you know, brown boxing all the species illegally, and they build up a
yeah.
huge collection, and all of a sudden they're the experts on the subject, when they are not super knowledgeable about what they're even keeping. And that's the issue. Basically,
Yeah.
spouting the stuff that they don't understand, and just, you know, do your research. Do your research before you say stuff. Before you start, you know.
Well, you have a good point. Like, you have a good point because there are the people that have like a million species and
Mhm.
kind of don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Like, they don't know the science behind it. They don't know the like the locales. They don't know any
yeah,
of the like
exactly.
actual information. Like, they know
Yeah,
how to keep them
yeah,
alive and
yeah.
have
You
them
know how to keep
breed.
them alive. You have if you have money, it's easy to get like 200 species of isopod in a very short amount of
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, you're one of the bigger breeders. You're one of the expert keepers, right?
right. Just
But
because you
you
keep them
could
live.
have joined the
And
hobby like a year ago and know very little about the subject that you're actually keeping. And yeah,
right, because like you said, you're mentioning a style of keeper.
mhm,
We'll call them a
yeah,
style. Um, a
yeah,
morph of breeder. Um, and I've been taken in by people that are
mhm,
experts, but they're
mhm,
really not. Like, come to find out, they're not. And I mean, some of them I just recently found out. Like, oh, okay.
mhm,
Um, and that's tough because on the one hand, it's like the brown boxers are trash, right?
mhm,
But on the other hand, like, what would we have in the hobby in the states without them? You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
And that's and that.
somebody,
Yeah, somebody's got to do it. And that's the thing is, like, I see a lot of comments about, oh, being people being like uh pious and holier than thou for dismissing brown boxing. Oh, you shouldn't smuggle isopods. You know, you shouldn't smuggle anything. And I agree, it can be detrimental, especially with a lot of these species that are being collected by the hundreds and continuously imported. Yeah, that's a problem.
Like I think there's a suspicion. I was talking with
Mhm.
the last time I had Ben Quintana on.
Mhm.
His thought was that the Jupiters are like either Jupiters or lemon blue are extinct in the wild. Like they haven't been seen where they were originally collected for like years. So
and that
like,
is
what we have is what we have.
Yeah,
What's
and that's very bad. That's detrimental for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, people that are like, don't smuggle stuff. Don't ever do that. That's really bad. There would be nothing in the hobby without it. And people that are, and like it's not great. Obviously, it's bad. But I'm just saying that a lot of people act as though they're getting isopods from ethical sources or that their stuff is captive bred, and it is, but it started as a smuggled stuff, like all the people trying to get permits for keeping stuff. It's like, dude, first of all, these were all smuggled into the country. Half of the people that are legally importing isopods, by the way, they label what they're importing as Cubaris murina, or one of the few species that they can legally import. And the people in customs, they don't know the difference. So so that's them legally importing stuff. It's not legal.
Well, and that's like don't get me wrong. Like I love Ben. I think Ben is a great guy, but he came straight up on the show and he's like, "Listen, man, if you want something in the States, you got to label it Cubaris. Like it's not going to get imported. So you just label it Cubaris, and then it shows up."
Yeah.
So, which I was like,
first of all, you shouldn't be saying that on the live stream.
Yeah, like he just said it like whatever, and I was like, "Is this bad?
Yeah.
Did we just destroy the hobby right here?" But at the same time, like he has a point. Like, of course. So a lot of these hobbies started, and at some point, like it's that thing. Like, what do you do? Because you have these, I almost said indigenous people, but you have these native people to the lands that are, they have these, and they find out that if I collect this blue and yellow bug,
I can make money.
Enough of them, I can make a lot of money for me, and it's easy. I just go out and flip a couple rocks and, whatever.
Yeah.
So, like that's a living, and that supports that little economy, or helps that little economy. But at what cost? Like if they're over harvesting and harvested the lemon blues or whatever to death, like that they're not there anymore, and it's not an easy species. Like that's a tough one to even keep here. So
and so that's
and how many die in transit and all of that. You know what? It's just crazy.
So brown boxing, I don't condone doing it, but it is unfortunately one of the inherent evils of this hobby is that there would be no hobby without it. And that's so anyone that claims to be like innocent of supporting that, basically, it's like, no, you participate in this hobby, you are, aiding and abetting technically in the smuggling of species, the brown boxing in of species. So it's just one of the inherent evils that we all have to live with if we want to be in this hobby.
Unfortunately, it's a lot of exotic keepers. Like I wanted examples on mammals. Like I always see a new mammal on a show or whatever, and I'm like, oh my god, I could keep that so well. Like I want a colony of bush babies.
Oh my god.
Bad.
Yes.
I had one at I was at like a pet expo or something, and there was one on the floor, and the guy's like, "Here, hold this," and hand me a cricket, and I was like, "Oh, I barely got in my hand in this thing from the floor. I'm 6'4".
Yes.
And I had it here, so like 5 feet, maybe 5.5 feet. Just jumped up on my hand. It's got the cricket, and I was like, I completely froze. Thank God I wasn't a spaz. Like, oh my god, get out of here.
Yeet it across the room.
Right, which is how my grandma killed my hamster.
Well,
I put it on her shoulder, and I thought she would like it because it's so cute. And she fucking threw it across the room, and it hit the wall. Dead.
No,
dead.
That's horrible.
And her thing was like, I was like, Grandma, you killed my hamster. Like, I told you not to put it on me. That was it. It was my fault. It was. But when I was like 7, I didn't know. I didn't know.
That's horrible.
That's and horrible. I got yelled at. They killed my hamster, and I got yelled at for it.
And you got yelled at for it.
Trauma.
Look what you made me do. You made me own your hamster. Oh my god, that's
right.
Horrible.
You made me kill your hamster.
Yes.
This is why I can't have a loving relationship.
Yes. That explains so much.
You're right. But like bush babies, you can keep bush babies in your house. Like and you keep a couple, they're social. You would be, I'm not saying go out and buy bush babies. I'm just using it as an example. You could do it. and keep them well, and they'd be fine. And then you have animals like the slow loris, which again I saw them and I was like, oh my god, how cool! Well, they like cut their teeth off, and like they have a toxin in their armpit or something.
Yeah, but they can then bite you and kill you potentially.
Well, that's why they cut their teeth out.
Exactly.
So, and I saw a video where they just use like nail trimmers and just snip, snip, snip.
Horrible. Yeah.
But like, that's heinous. That is not just like a bad practice. That's just heinous.
That's so cruel. Yeah, just don't keep it.
And I know that.
Don't keep it.
Yeah, I know that's on a mammal level, and it happens all the time. But it's probably on everything we keep.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many parrots get killed in importation, and they stuff them all in a tire, and 2 live, and that's a good batch. Like 35 died, but 2 lived.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But the thing is, like without some captive breeder at some point getting those specimens that survived importation, we wouldn't have parrots.
Exactly.
We wouldn't have a million isopod species that we have. We wouldn't have bush babies. By bush babies.
Right. But
there's just so many animals that we just wouldn't have. And is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? It's like, where do you
It's bad until it's good. It's bad until they start being captive bred enough that we don't have to import them. And that should always be the goal. In my opinion, anything's really fair game in terms of collecting and bringing to the hobby, as long as you're not over harvesting, and try to just import them once or twice and get them breeding and then go from there, And that's the thing with like roaches, for example. We get a lot of roach species in the hobby. We've been getting a lot in the past decade, a lot of new ones. Okay. And most of them are only collected from the wild once or twice before we get them established, we get them bred, and then they never really need to be collected again. And people just spread them around. And a lot of that is because there's not a ton of money in roaches, not nearly as much as isopods. So most of the things that are being introduced to the hobby are being introduced by passionate breeders of them, collectors, rather than vendors that are just collecting them by the hundreds and selling wild caught ones. A lot of roaches that enter the hobby, you will never see sold as wild caught. People will get the wild caught ones, breed them, and then sell the offspring off.
Which I think is how it should be.
And that's how
it should be that way.
That's how it should be for isopods too.
We're going to talk with Eddie Lopez about his beefs, but one of his beefs is people that get an isopod species and right away it breeds. And if you're buying it from a good seller, every isopod I've ever bought from a good seller has showed up with manca, like freshborn manca in the container. Like they bred in shipping.
Half the time you get gravid females, when you're buying isopods. So
right, but like that doesn't mean then you have them and you call yourself a breeder, but then they crash because you're not. Your husbandry sucks. But you think you were successful. So it's just bad. It's just bad.
With isopods especially, I don't consider myself successful at breeding a species until I've gotten the second generation. When the babies I've produced from the first generation have their own babies, then it's like, okay, I'm doing all right with these. But up until that point, you're riding off of the success of the person before you, really. You're receiving gravid females that happen to give birth for you. That's right. That's nothing.
I mean, congratulations! You turned your 10 count into a 50 count, but
how long can you keep that 50 count going? And will you get it to 100 count? Exactly.
My one species that I was so mad for so long about was clowns. Clowns was one of the clue guy. Was one of the first species I got into the hobby for. I saw them and I was in love. In love. And I don't have them anymore. I don't even have them now because they crashed again. But I could not get them to take off. And so I had 2 colonies going at once because I saw these people with they'd pick up their cork bark and they're just everywhere. And I was like, I can do that. So I bought some from Wally. I bought some from Pod Solo when he was selling ice pods. And then I bought some from somebody else. It was all 12 counts. And I want to split them in half and keep in some Wally's way and some Pod Solo's way. And neither of those worked. So then somebody was getting rid of their collection or something and sent me 50. And then they went nuts. So, and it was on Wally's technique. So, but it just happened to be you're keeping in 2, not drastically different ways, but one was I don't remember which was which, but one was I keep them dry. I keep a quarter of it moist and the rest is bone dry. I want to say that was Wally. Wally uses the bone dry phrase a lot. And then Pod Solo is like, no, I keep it like 50% wet, like armadillidium, you know, like, because that's kind of, in my experience, armadillidium like it moist. And dude, I couldn't do it. I don't know why. And it made me crazy because everything else I had, I barely did anything, and they bred like wildfire. And that's an example too of like what you can do with a very common species, how you could have total trouble, and then somebody could have like tricolors, and they have 1,000 within a couple months, you know.
Exactly. And like that's another good example too of people recommending different husbandry for the same species, because their ambient conditions probably are so different from each other that you know, they do better with higher humidity for this other guy, probably because his ambient air humidity is lower, or he uses more ventilation, versus Wally saying keep him more dry, probably because his ambient air humidity is much higher. If I had to guess,
he keeps them in the same areas. It's like,
you know,
it keeps them in the same areas as all his reptiles and stuff. I bet it's fairly humid there.
So those small variables can make a huge difference. And my Kluge are breeding like rabbits. I treat them like trash though. Like I haven't given them leaf litter in like a year, and they're just popping off. I keep them. They're in an old roach bin, so the substrate is like half an inch of coconut fiber and sand.
I hate you so much.
The ventilation, and there's tons. There's so many of them. And it's a mutt colony too. It's a locality cross. They were sold to me as Montenegro, but they clearly seem to have Dubrovnik in them as well. So I plan on selling them completely and starting with pure strains soon. But they're super easy for me, and I think it's just because my air humidity is to their liking. They're pretty well ventilated, so I just keep a little bit of the enclosure humid, like a third of the substrate humid and the rest dry, and they do well. And I keep them hot too, like
and your substrate's like nothing.
So they just breed effortlently.
I was in there on them every day, like okay, a little bit of mist, okay, not on them, just on the glass, let it drain.
I'm just they're trash. I don't care about them. They're locality mix. I'm not that interested in them, and they just no effort. They just breathe.
That sentence, your sentence, just now, made me
garbage.
I hate you.
Garbage.
Oh my god, they're garbage. I don't do anything for them. They're on Coco Core. I don't give them leaf litter, and they breed like crazy. Like every single thing, it just escalated.
Everything in that sentence is
I was like, sorry. I just changed my religion.
Yes.
There is no God.
There is no God. Why?
Wesley, whoever that guy was. But see, it's just wild how you can get such drastically different results.
It's drastically different husbandry.
Hugely different husbandry on these guys. It's crazy.
There's just so many variables to take into account, and so
like at the time, I had them on an ACE substrate, like that I poured over. I was like very crazy about mixing it. It had the big charcoal pieces too, you know, like the natural charcoal. That I took Wally's thing and I took the bag out to the driveway and I drove over it like 8 times to crush it. It was awesome. Such a great idea. Most of my early and ongoing pod keeping stuff's from Wally. He's a good educator. So are there better methods? Yeah, sure. Do you need them? No, not really. There's way worse. It
can always be worse.
Like paper towel, or what was it? Cardboard.
Cardboard.
Cardboard for prunosis, like whatever. I don't really. They're feeder pods, you know. Whatever.
Cardboard for like Cubaris and Marylandella, though. That's pushing it.
I don't know that I would do that. But I had everything, and I don't know where I was going with this. I don't know, but and I failed. I still failed, and I did everything, and then you just do nothing for these guys, and they do great.
And here's the thing, like back in like 2016, 2017, I was breeding like Oniscus ocellis, like a lot of the Spanish Procelio, some Armadillidiums. I was doing well with most of my ice pod species. One I could not get going for some reason, for whatever reason, was just common backyard Armadillidium vulgare. I
my
tried
God.
I tried so many times. I could not. I had a success with them like years prior, but then that colony crashed for some reason. And then every time I tried again, I just couldn't do it. And I don't know why. And I just tried again this year, and I'm having success. But
At some point
I don't know what I did.
with those original, remember I
Mhm.
told you I had like 60 original
Mhm.
wild caught from my backyard.
Well,
It turned into 5 bins, like
mhm.
5 of the big sweater tubs, like
Yeah.
these guys,
Yeah.
48 quarts, I think, 48, whatever.
Mhm.
And I just couldn't do it anymore. I had some isolated to like a high yellow that
Yeah.
lasted a little while, didn't really do anything, but I wasn't
Mhm.
really, I don't
Yeah.
know, I wasn't really doing a lot with it. I wasn't serious about it.
Yeah.
It probably would have taken off. It probably would have had like almost golden because there were some tons of yellow on them.
Yeah.
And then I found, is it true that the females are the ones that carry the big yellow, or is it?
It probably depends on the exact gene that you have at play that's causing them to be yellow.
Yeah.
I would assume there are probably yellow morphs that you can get where both sexes have it. But then there might be ones that it's like sex linked.
Okay.
Like
Because then
Mhm.
I froze some of them because I was getting
Mhm.
rid of them, and then kind of mashed them into fish food.
Yeah.
And then this is the worst. Don't hate me. So
Oh God.
I took the last bin of like a
Mhm.
couple thousand and just took it outside. It was like, here, you're free now. Go back to nature. And it probably
Oh my gosh.
devastated the ecosystem for them for a while because
Oh,
to this day, there's like a lot of roly polies in my yard,
my
in my,
gosh.
like area here, in my block. Like way more than when I initially caught them. Like I
Mhm.
boosted the
Yeah.
ecology. I don't know what species I pushed out when I did that,
Mhm.
but like, they disrupted
Probably
something
some
in the fish
other
world.
random European inventives. Anyways, it probably didn't matter.
Yeah, they're
There,
all, aren't
there are
they?
very few. There are very few U.S. native isopods in.
Aren't they initially invasive, Bulgari?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there you
So,
go. I introduced a ton of non-native
yeah.
creatures to my native creature backyard. Yeah, I'm not proud of it. It was a bad move, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
I felt like freezing them all was like,
Mhm.
that's so mean, but it's
Yeah.
necessary. So
Yeah.
don't do what I did, guys. Do
Mhm.
as I say, not as I do.
I see
Yeah.
Wally Spring Gecko saying that his first attempt at breeding Oniscus ocellus was took a long time for them to breed, and yeah, that is they are kind of slow breeders, especially at first, but
I thought they were kind of like scabers, like
yeah, they can be
community time.
when they get they have big broods is the thing. They do have big broods, but they like it. In my experience, they seem to like it quite a bit cooler and much more consistently humid than scaber.
Okay.
They're also very protein hungry to the point where they cannibalize a decent bit if they don't have enough protein in their diet. I've noticed. And they really love leaf litter as well. So they're one of the ones that like a little bit of pampering for sure. But once you got them set up nicely, they pop off.
Which is, I think, is kind of a lot of the species.
Yeah.
I've seen that in that experience. Like, there's been a lot of. All of a sudden, I have success with a species that didn't do anything forever.
Yeah.
Like my Fissionalis, I can't do anything wrong. They're bulletproof for me now.
Yeah. I just
they
got
still
those.
breathe super slow. Oh,
Yeah.
they're awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to see
logo,
full grown ones.
Yeah, my logo, Gordon. That's a Fissionalis.
Oh, that's cool.
It's my favorite. That's what he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like an aquatic ice spot. I don't know. But yeah, they're hands down my favorite. I don't know why, because I never see them move. As soon as I open the bin, whoop, they're balls, like immediately.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a bin of marbles.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep them. I would recommend keep them in a deeper substrate. They do like to burrow.
Yeah, I gave mine a decent bit.
I didn't know how many that I had until I started scooping around in there, and I was like, oh, I don't just have 15 anymore.
Nice.
They're prolific for a menagerie too. They didn't for like a year. I had nothing. I just had them growing, and they get so big.
I know. I'm excited to see how big they get compared to my Hilaria.
They won't be Hilaria, but
they won't be Hilaria, but still, I am excited to see.
They're impressive. They're impressive.
Yeah.
What's up, Zach? Okay.
A person commented, "Has anyone figured out what the deal is with some people really struggling with Cubara species amber and Trogodilla species green spots. Ambers do very well for me. They breed very well for me. And I know some breeders, Smugbug, Laura, she's great.
Yeah.
But like a year or two ago, I saw her post that basically a little bit of a conspiracy theory, thinking that all Cubara species amber in the hobbies are just wild-caught imports, and that no one's actually successfully breeding them.
Oh.
I can personally testify that that's not the case. Because
my guess is because she couldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Mine have been breeding for multiple generations. I got them from a friend of mine, Brandon Maines, who's been breeding them for multiple generations. I'm pretty sure he got his from Anthony Molnar, I'm pretty sure, who's been breeding them for multiple generations. So very multi-generational colony. They do fine in captivity. The issue is they need heat. A lot of isopods, some isopods don't like heat, and so a lot of people generalize that, isopods like it cool. But a lot of them are pretty heat tolerant, and some of the Southeast Asian species, oh my god, I'm having a stroke. Some of them actually seem to require higher temperatures to breed, and Cubara species amber is one of those. I tried keeping them once at like room temperature, and they just slowly withered away. Now I'm keeping them at like 75 to 85 Fahrenheit, and they're popping off. So
You're not keeping them in your 90-degree bedroom? Is that?
They're in my 90-degree bedroom, but they're on like one of the mid shelves, so it's not quite.
Oh, that's okay. Right. Yeah. You got the gradient in your room.
Yeah. The heat rises, so that's the top shelves are always the warmest, and then the bottom is like, especially now that it's winter, it's like 70s down there.
That's wild. I would be sleeping on my floor if I was you. There's no way. There's
I
no
should
way.
It gets so hot in here at night. And the green spots, those I had a bit of struggle with initially. They seem to be doing well now, though. They just seem to like a lot of airflow and a good humidity gradient, like a good 50-50 humidity gradient. Or else, if you keep them too humid, they drop dead. If you keep them too dry, they drop dead. They like it. I find mine always like right on the line between the humid and the dry substrate. And they like a lot of leaf litter as well. So
do you use the bridge? Do you use the bark bridge?
No.
To go over? No? Oh, bro, come on, man. You got to get the bark bridge. So you take a piece of bark.
Wait. You mean that?
Your moist half and your dry half.
Kind of.
Bridge over.
Kind of. There's a couple big pieces of bark on the humid side, and then a lot of little pieces in the drier side, and there's a little bit of an overlap, and that is usually where I find them. So I probably should do the bark bridge. Yeah.
Just get the bridge hide, man. I'm telling you.
I'll switch it up.
Local bark.
Yeah, local bark.
And then cork bark. The people freaking out about cork bark piss me off. Does that?
That's weird. I don't understand. Like, how is that more dangerous to them than hardwood bark, like normal bark? I feel like people are still recommending using like oak bark, whatever. Yeah, it's not edible. It's not palatable to them. It's not tasty. That's not the point of it.
You don't eat your house.
Yeah, exactly. They'll wear down anything you put in there over time. So why not use cork bark over like oak bark or whatever? And they're acting. I feel like people are saying like don't use cork bark, but use oak bark or whatever.
Yeah.
Endobark you find aside. That's not more palatable than cork. It's not more nutritious at least. Like they still.
Doesn't it break down faster though? Doesn't it, like the inside of it anyway? Like
depends on the bark. But and what humidity level you're keeping it at. But yeah, some of it will break down faster.
It's like, it's not edible. It's like, well, neither is the container. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. It doesn't need to be edible. It's just something for them to grab onto and hide under. Like,
does your hamster not have? Yeah. Does your hamster not have like the plastic hide?
Is your hamster's running wheel not edible?
Yeah. You just have like a bare dirt patch in your basement where your cat shits. Like, what's your deal?
Yeah, it's weird.
They don't have any of those.
It's weird.
And I think the soapboxes that people get on, everyone except the Coca-Cola one is not good. That soapbox drives me crazy because people it's in that same group of ignorant clowns. I'm gonna find out what it is and put it on here. It's like isopod care and something, and it's like, dude, I wanna.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. Right. Give it to them.
Yeah.
We're the tough guys. TJ and I are the tough guys.
I keep my fucking kluge like trash.
Ugh,
Sanded coconut fiber, baby.
it drives me crazy that you do that and they bred like crazy. And I was over there like with a water dropper, like, oh, it's too humid now. I got to take some out.
Those are another one I tried getting rid of last year, and I kept like a dozen of them. The kluge, and it went from a dozen to a couple hundred again within a few months. And it was like, yeah.
They must have like good sized broods too. Like
they have huge broods. Yeah, they have huge broods. That's a big part.
When they explode. Like when they're breeding, they're breeding.
Yeah. That's the case for a lot of Armadillidium. They have such tiny babies, but so many of them. So
okay. Yeah. Oh, Jedi wants to know kluge tips. Just treat them like trash.
Treat them like trash.
Yeah. Keep them in a styrofoam container with chicken bones and
Yep.
And paper towels. That's it.
Yep.
That's all you need.
I bet I could breed them. I'm gonna set up a container of them just on paper towels and send you pictures. I'm
gonna lose my mind. My blood pressure is already high enough, dude.
You're killing me.
And the thing is, I know you can do it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, that's the argument. I think that yes, you can, but should you? Is like, the people that are like, oh, ants have a soul. Mm-hmm. It's like, do the whole colony have a soul or each individual ant? I'm confused.
Yeah, that's weird.
Like I think they have value. I think each animal has value. I don't know if I think some people put it way up higher than it maybe is. But I think that some people just get way over the top with, like you're saying, like they need this this epic substrate, and need is where that's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Need is where that's where my autistic thing comes in. Is like they don't need it. They
Wally's.
They don't need it.
Yeah, this is where Wally and I agree.
Well, yeah. Although I would say most of my colonies are thriving though, so just throwing that out there.
Clearly, I'm saying.
But I'm
not
it's
shitting on your
it's
yeah.
No,
I'm saying that you can get such crazy results on husbandry that I would never use. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I can't argue with it. I can't say never because I've done it.
Because there's always an exception to the rule. Yeah.
There's not even because you're saying Alan does it too, and I'm sure a ton of other people. Oren has the same.
See, that's the thing. My friend group, most of my close friends keep things very similar to how I do. That's how I've learned from them, and vice versa. And so we have a lot of. So we're a little posse of miscreants, I guess.
Menageries got it right. I always argue. I do. I argue everything.
Yeah.
I'm the worst. And it's just to learn. My arguments are to learn. Okay, I want to learn about you. I want to learn about what you're doing. I want to process like, okay, what am I doing? Because like now I want to try kluge on a trash setup to see if
I'll send you some if you want some locality mixed kluge. I'll send you some.
I mean, as long as they're orange with the yellow dots, I don't care. Like I don't like
some of them have the yellow dots. Some are just white.
Montenegros are my jam.
Yeah, pure Montenegros. I'm hoping to get those soon because those are nice.
What are they throwing?
Yellow, huh?
Yeah, the pure Montenegros are that yellow, those bright yellow dots down the back. Oh my god, there's nothing better.
Yeah. Whereas the mutts I have right now, some of them have the yellow dots, some of them don't. A lot of them have more like Dubrovnik coloration, like a lot of the heavy red coloration seeping into the middle. Mostly white spots. So they're definitely not pure Montenegro. So
well, then I won't feel good keeping them like trash.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's awesome. Yeah. No, I appreciate it, but I'm not looking for any more. I barely take care of my espods now. Like I do, but it's not what it used to be. There's no like, there's no like, in it anymore. It's just like, I gotta feed those guys again. All right,
yeah.
Drop some zucchini, get out some, some carrots.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like a chore now more than anything else. So I'm trying to like bring it down to much less species. I just I don't know why I just shrank my chair. I don't know what's happening. I can't recline. But I don't know what's happening with that. I gotta get it down to like 4 or 5 species, and I just can't. I can't get rid of any of them because I still care about them.
Yeah.
But like I think when one of my great colonies crashed, my Hoffs. I just I don't know. It just like took the wind out of me. I need to get more of those. That's definitely something I want more of.
Sometimes it's good to take a little step back and keep it on the back burner for a while, and then your passion gets renewed after a while, I find, and then
That
you're
could
like,
be.
okay, I need all of them now,
Yeah, because doing this, like a lot of people, not a lot of people, but more than I ever revealed or realized, are like, "Hey, man, I'll send you this. I have extras or whatever." And I'm like, "No, I can't. I can't anymore.
Can't." You're waiting, and then one day you're gonna be like, "I'm gonna cash in all of these favors. I'm gonna take up all these offers at once."
Hey, man, remember 2 years ago when you offered me like a 6 cup of cappuccinos? I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down. They're gonna be like, "Who are you?" Do you have any more beefs?
Any more beefs?
Any more discussions? Anything else you want to argue about?
Discussions. Hold on. Let me look at my list. I think
this is by far the most confrontational episode.
Yes, I'm gonna get roasted after this. Yeah, no, those are all the main talking points I have.
I don't think you'll get roasted. You're like literally one of the nicest guys in the hobby.
Oh.
And
well, hopefully people keep that in mind when they see this. They'll be like, "Hey, don't buy from Invertebrate Dude. He keeps his stuff on coconut fiber. He said inbreeding is great."
or there's another selling point. If you're on that fence,
you're
probably the same person that adopts animals or rescues them from PetSmart.
Yeah.
Rescue them from DJ.
Rescue them from me. Yeah.
Rescue his perfectly happy. Oh God.
I just wanted to show off a roach. People like seeing the bugs,
That is such a pissed off roach.
It is so pissed off. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
He is not wanting to stay still. It's a Princessia Van Wera Becky, black and white. There you go.
See, again, that's a lie. There's nothing white about that.
Right? Yeah. It's more like beige, like ivory.
Oh, I see the white. I see some white stripes in there.
Oh my God.
Dude.
Really? He's not grabbing onto me. His feet are all intact. I don't know why he's slipping. Yeah, really nice.
Jumped. That's so funny.
Hisser. Nice hissing roach. And see, this is one of those things. This is one of those things that's like hybrids of these are so boring looking. Like they don't have good striping. They just look like mutt, orange portentosa. And it's like the pure lines, you get a lot more differences and a lot of unique coloration. But yeah.
Well, and I like that. Like there are great roaches that I think are awesome.
Yeah.
You watch? I don't know if you watch Ants Canada at all.
Sometimes I do. Yeah.
So he just set up this friggin' insane terrarium. Get out of here, dude.
He wants to be on the stream.
He wants to be co-host so bad.
Yeah.
But it's like a 10-foot long, 6-foot high, 3-foot deep, crazy jungle. Like he's putting all kinds of stuff in there to go like an ecosystem.
Yeah.
But he's not like he's doing it Ants Canada style. He's not really doing it.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful setup. Like it's amazing. And I would die. But he has like 4 or 5 different species of roach. Some of them are for feeders. Some of them are like show roaches.
Okay.
But he has those. What are the ones that are like the iridescent green?
Magnifica. I have 3 stones of those.
Oh wow! Well, they're like I didn't know they were like semi-arboreal or arboreal.
They are they're full on arboreal. Like I've seen like posts from people who collect them in the wild, and they're literally just up in the trees, up on the foliage.
Well, he has these jungle vines. He has these like jungle vines hanging, and they're all on those vines. And I was blown away.
And those
females, at least.
There's not a lot of roaches I would put with ants, but those are one that when they're disturbed, they like really hunker down and grab onto the whatever they're on, and I think part of that is an anti-ant defense. Oh. Like literally, they just get so flat and they press themselves completely down to where nothing can get like a purchase, nothing can bite them, and they're so hard shelled that it works pretty well for them. So I would be surprised those doing well in a large bioactive setup, even with ants.
I mean, it's huge. It's insane, the size of this thing. Like he gets in it to clean. Like he got in it to set it up, like inside it, moving things around. I was blown away. But like if I had 10 million followers or whatever, I'd probably do something like that.
Yeah.
Probably move to the Philippines and get all kinds of crazy things. But yeah, that's like a dream thing. I could see, like, if I win the lottery, I'm gonna fund that for you. Just get you like the craziest friggin' setup ever. I have beef with the person feeding fancy isopods to their animals. Oh, Pelly.
Oh, I
Oh,
want to
that's
make
is
a
that
video of
Kevin?
me feeding Ambers too. I was the one. Me and Kevin were joking about the feeding Marilynella this stuff. I want to do it. I was telling him to send me a woodlouse spider so I could feed like Marilynella and some of the fancy cubars too. That he hasn't been able to find any recently.
Does he have woodlouse
But,
spiders?
in his area, like outside.
Oh,
So
well, if
that's
I
what I.
catch one, I'll send one to you. I have them
Yeah,
here too.
do
They're
it.
not as much.
Yeah, they're here in Idaho, but I haven't seen them in years.
I had
But,
an overrun. I had like an insane amount of them, and they're one of the spiders that I'm like,
yeah.
get out of my face.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're like primal or something, but were you watch? Do you know that I put my foot through a 10-gallon down here in the middle right after taping?
No.
So I was in my chair and I was over in the other part of the room or whatever, and in front of me, in the setup that I had was so janky. There was a 10-gallon tank with dilatatus in it,
Mm-hmm.
Porcellia dilatatus, and on top of that was like this box, and then on top of that was my mic and my camera. And so I was getting up from the show, and I had spilled a Pepsi, so I was getting up to like get something to clean it up, and barefoot, and I slip on the concrete floor, and my foot goes straight through the 10-gallon. So I had to get like 20 stitches or something.
Oh
I had
man.
3 gashes. Yeah, 3 big gashes. So I had to take care of that before I did anything else. But so there's blood all over my house. There's like a trail all the way upstairs. And but anyway, like hundreds of giant canyons just roamed my basement for months. Yeah. So I had this outbreak of woodlouse spider, and I was like watching a weird ecosystem war. And then I ran out of both. Like all of a sudden I had nothing.
Yeah.
That's
funny though. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's your woodlouse story. That was mine. Like
Yeah,
all of a sudden,
yeah.
I had them everywhere,
Whoa.
and I like, not a fan.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
They're
They were
weird
trying to
looking
be cool
spiders
Pokemon.
too, because they look kind of scary with the huge jaws that they have to pierce.
And they're like
isopod.
weird orange skin. It's like they have skin.
Yeah.
Ugh. God, they're so creepy.
Yeah. I like them though.
I
I like
my
creepy
spiders
things.
fuzzy.
Yeah, I like creepy things. So, yeah, I would love to get a colony of those going because they can be kept communally too. So that's a nice little colony spider. The woodlouse spiders. Yeah. So I want them just to keep them because they're cool spiders. But I also want to make some troll videos of me feeding expensive isopods too, because people get so butthurt over that. And like, I get it, but at the same time, it's an expensive isopod, but it's still an isopod. If it's breeding well for you, you know.
That's true. It's yours.
People act like they have like almost like more feelings or they're more a value as an individual because they're a more coveted species, and it's like there's logically, literally, no difference between feeding these off or feeding powder blues off. No one gets mad.
Biologically, no.
Yeah, logically, yeah, no.
Biologically,
yeah. In terms of money, you could be making more money off of selling your Marilynella, but again, I'm not in it for the money, so.
Right.
I'll show some people, but yeah.
There are so many people that have excess of every species, like just feed them off. When I had my hedgehog, let me tell you, the hedgehog and my overpopulation of dairy cows.
Yeah.
Dairy cows were not a problem anymore. I would just put like 12 in there all the time. She'd go nuts, and it was a blast to watch. So the only problem is they're really stupid, and so ones would kind of get away, and it was no good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's funny though.
But I got. I think we covered a lot of stuff today, and I learned a lot. And hold on. All right. I'm trying to write a comment and not interrupt the show to write it instead of just say it. My foot's okay, guys. My foot's fine now. It was like almost 2 years ago, but
I mean, he showed it to me before the stream, and it was pretty rough looking, guys.
Yeah, the flap is still there, but
the flap. Again, it's like my arm. It's kind of discolored as well.
I packed it with frass. Right away.
Obviously.
Yeah. I tried to hobble my way upstairs, but there were like blood footprints all the way up to my bathroom. And my wife came out because I was making all kinds of noise. And I was like, I think I should get this checked out. She's like, you're going to the hospital, you idiot.
Oh,
So
God.
I show up with a bath towel like duct taped around my leg.
Yes.
It's all blown through, and
Ugh.
it
Yeah.
was bad.
Horrible.
Yeah, no one wants to see my feet, whether they're healed or not.
I don't know, man.
Thanks.
Start an OnlyFans. You'll see.
I tried.
Surprise.
This is an admission. I was trying to close the show, but this is another good story. So I work in banks, and the one bank I worked at, we had some lovely women. I'll just say that they were lovely.
Mhm.
And I'm not into feet, but they would like kick off their shoes or whatever behind the teller line and be like, "Oh, my shoes!" And it's like, you've been sitting down all day. What are you crying about?
Yeah.
So anyway, they would kick off their shoes and have like whatever nylons on or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, you guys have nice feet, like I'm not into feet, but those are nice feet." And then I said, I'm their manager. And I was like, you know what you should do? Let's get together and start like an OnlyFans situation where you're just doing feet stuff, like just your feet. You don't show your face, nothing. You could be just stepping on bananas, like all kinds of crazy stuff. You'll make a fortune. And they were almost down. It was this close to having like a stable of feet girls. And
Oh my God.
I mean, some were in their 40s, some were my age. So I was this close to being like, I don't know what that is. Is that a pimp? Is that what that is?
Maybe, yeah.
I was like, I don't know. Yeah, how Josh got a visit
God.
from HR. HR is I have to be on every HR's list.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but anyway, that's a great way to close the show.
Yeah,
I was going to start
right?
like,
Yeah. Coercing
Put
your
more aside.
workers into.
I'm doing it for the incels. Full circle, guys. Full circle. Back to the incels.
Back. It always goes back to incels, man.
I wish it didn't. Especially not the violent ones.
Yeah. Oh my God.
There's a spitting spider in my bathroom.
Oh, those are cool.
Is that a thing?
Those are yeah. They spit out web. I think is it web or is it saliva? I don't know. Basically,
saliva,
they fling a sticky web secretion that also has venom in it, so it immobilizes and I think envenomates their prey at the same time. I'm pretty sure.
That is wild.
They're pretty cool. They're another one of those spiders that you can keep communally as well, which is kind of neat.
Just a bunch of spiders flinging goobers at.
As long as you feed them,
cockaloogies.
as long as you give them enough hides and feed them enough, yeah, you can keep a little culture of those. I wouldn't mind keeping those too.
And that's out.
Yep.
Kind of like velvet worms. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. They're like the velvet worms of spiders.
They shoot it out their fingers though, right? Like not their fingers, but they're like the end of their feet.
Oh, the velvet worms. Yeah, they have like two, like I guess, cannons at the front of their bodies that they just splooge the.
Biology's so wild. Biology's so wild.
It's so wild. Ugh.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
These shows anytime. I love these episodes because I get to hang out with you for like 2 hours now.
Yeah,
it runs longer.
Yeah.
Talking about feet and beef and beefy feet and
incels and coconut fiber. It's great.
I think we said isopod and roach enough that it's an actual show. So
yes.
Thanks, Heather. She's good people. Thanks, man. Thanks so much. And this was on such short notice, and you're awesome.
Yeah. Hey, anytime you need someone to come in, I'm down.
Next week? No, next week we got Russ. We got Aquarimax Russ coming on next week.
Oh, nice. I love Russ. He's great.
Yeah, he's like my show bro. Him and Wally.
He's great.
But yeah, we'll have Russ next week, and then somebody.
Edwin? Did you say Edwin?
Eddie will not commit to coming on the damn show. Like he was gonna come on and reveal that crazy fan thing he has now.
Yeah.
And then I saw it online. I'm like, what the hell, man?
That was supposed to be my show. That was supposed to be my thing, man.
So he is going to come on. We're going to talk about his crazy setups because Crazy Eddie is, or Easy Eddie. He has the most insane setups I've ever seen.
Crazy Eddie. I'm going to start calling him Crazy Eddie.
He's crazy. He's crazy. He'll just he's sending me Ember Bees for like nothing, and he won't take no for an answer. So
he's where I got my Ember Bees from. Yeah, he's a great guy for sure.
I think he said if I could breed him, anybody could breed him, and he wants to prove that. So
that's kind of mean, but
he's not wrong. He's not wrong. So it's got to be easy for me to keep it.
Yeah. Well, they're breeding for me on coconut fiber, so just
Christ's sake, would you just stop with
And multiple layers of leaf litter. Okay, they don't really touch the substrate no matter what you keep them on.
All right, as long as we have the leaf litter.
Those are another that like we've seen pictures of them in the wild, and they're basically arboreal, which is like they find them like they're crawling on foliage and tree trunks and stuff in the wild. They stay and in captivity they always are trying to climb up too. So they love their verticality. They don't.
Well, I heard they're super surface active. That makes a lot of sense now. Yeah. So I'm gonna try to set something up like that.
Yeah. I just rehoused mine to a much taller enclosure, and they're all almost as high as they can be.
TJ's bottom paid for by Big Coconut. I knew it.
I wish.
I knew it.
Lord, sponsor me. I'm doing the Lord's work here.
Doing the Lord's work.
You know how much? At least give me coconut fiber for free. You know how much I go through.
You don't. It lasts forever. Don't kid anybody.
No, because I keep getting more stuff. my collection is doubled. I've gotten like 100 species in the last year. I keep needing more.
Just coat your floor.
I'm just buying it.
Let them run around.
Make my room a bioactive.
Just shuffle your feet when you walk. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Set up an OnlyFans with my feet wiggling around in coconut fiber.
Oh God, I almost threw up. Oh my God. It was this thing for your toes. I bet you have long toes.
A little like getting like in between the curves. I bet some weirdos would be into that.
They would. I don't know why. I just assume you have long toes. Like
I would say they're normal length. No.
I mean probably.
Kind of stubby.
I don't know why that you did this, and I was like, TJ's got long toes, I bet.
These are my fingers, man, not my toes, okay?
Hand toes.
Oh my God.
All right, bro. I'm gonna kick you out so I can do my close.
All right.
Thank you so much again.
No problem,
awesome.
Man. Thanks for having me on.
Time.
This is fun.
If you want to hang out a minute and BS after this,
all right,
feel free. All right. If not, I totally understand. Guys, that was TJ. I just booted him. I had to. I couldn't keep him around. We'd have a 4-hour episode, which I'm sure. 18 of you are down, so that shows a lot. Thank you guys so much for all the interaction, all the conversation you had going on, all the fact that you're watching me do this. I like to think 90% of it is for the guest, that you guys are here for the guest, and I cover that 10% spread all by myself. If you want to support the show, support what we do here, we have a Facebook group, ISO Buddies on Facebook. We're awesome. We are currently starting, we're keeping the beef thing going. And I have a beef with a hognose breeder right now. If you want to take a look at that, it's on the page. I'd like for him not to be a breeder anymore. So his snakes look awesome. That's the worst part. His snakes look amazing, but you'll see. It's bad news. He's just bad for the hobby. What else? We don't support me that way, but you can like, subscribe, comment. Please comment. Like, it's always Moon. It's me and Moon just commenting back and forth. It's actually not that long of conversations, but it's always Moon over Miami, and which is awesome. What else? Share the page. We're getting close to 500 guys. We're this close, and I just lost 2 subs this week. I don't know what I did, but we need those t-shirts. We're working on merch. I'm trying to work something out so we can get t-shirts and stuff that you guys can order if you decide to, whatever. We're going to be at NARBC Schaumburg and at Tinley as well. We're going to do all the NARBCs because I live like between the two, like almost right in the middle of the two. So it's going to be real fun. So if you want to come out and meet us, we'll be there. We will be there giving out stickers, whatever else, the little stickers that I've got. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/isobuddies. Every little bit helps. You could forego $1 a month and send it our way so we can get cool things like these earbuds, which we just did. Okay, they work great. That's all I got, though, guys. I appreciate it. Next week, we're going to talk to Russ Wilson about WHOAH shrimp. If you don't know what those are, come on and find out. This is literally the easiest pet on the planet, besides, like, pubic lice. Those are super easy, too. But can't keep them on cocoa fiber, though. But WHOAH shrimp, they're like this big. They're red. They're awesome. Super easiest pet ever. I swear to God. But yeah, come join us next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. And I love you, Juglones. All right, you guys.